Okay, good morning, Rob. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, thanks. Hey, I want to have this quick talk with you because I'm getting people that are getting confused between the difference between voice search devices and what when people are talking about Alexa, Cortana, Bixby, Siri. That isn't necessarily a device; it's more of a system. Do you agree with that? Is that
It, it, yeah, I mean, it's basically an operating system and kind of an aspect. It's because let's use this as an example. If you're talking about Siri sits on lives inside of the iPhone. It lives on the computer. It's also on Mac computers. So any Apple computer. It's also on the smartwatch. So if I look at my watch right here, that's going to have Siri on it. There's also smart speakers that have Siri on it. Alexa, that's all Amazon products. So that's all of your smart speakers and all the different Amazon products. Google and Android, they all use all the Google products and they have their whole line. And then there's a bunch of new ones that are coming out, but I would look at those as being an operating system that operates on that brand or runs on it as an open source or whatever. But yes, it'd be an operating system versus
right?
what it wouldn't be hey, the Siri is just this one thing.
Right, right. So because a lot of people are saying, that they're using their voice to do searches, and that's a voice search, and they are using their voice because it's more convenient than typing, and that's the way the world is going. And even on my computer, I have a microphone that I can turn on voice uh, typing, if you will, but it's still a voice search. But that's part of the system, or is it really truly a voice search? I mean, it gets to be a fine line between what is voice search and what is a just a search. I mean, but the,
So
the problem is,
what you're talking about for that microphone and being able to talk and it types, that is voice to text. So
okay,
that's why that would still be considered somewhat of a voice search. But on your computer, every Windows computer, for the most part, I can't think of any that don't anymore, comes with the search engine Cortana. Cortana uses Chat GPT to pull its information up.
right,
And it is inside your computer. So technically, you could talk to Cortana. I've actually never, I've played with it a long time ago. I haven't played with it recently. I've played with it. But you can talk to Cortana on your computer and have it give you information.
right. But I think that people are getting really hung up, that Alexa is a voice search, it's a device and a system just because of the way
Alexa
Amazon,
would be.
right,
But
right,
I mean, they really truly call an Alexa speaker or
right,
Alexa smart speaker.
right.
So,
But
I mean, it gets really super confusing. But when we talk about voice search in just general, you have lots of different devices. You have cars that have voice search that are
right,
pulling from GPS information. You have so many pieces. That's why I just read a study, and I think it came from somewhere inside of Google that 1 out of 5 searches are now used some way of voice inside of that search.
right. But it's not necessarily a voice search. They're using their voice to do the search, and the way it works is not necessarily just like it's going to talk back to you. Well, maybe it does talk back to you, but it's starting to get intertwined enough where I just want to make sure that people don't get it all confused and go, I need to be on Siri. Well, Siri is a system that's part of Apple, basically, or iPhone,
Correct.
correct? And people need to understand that Siri is not, of course, you still have your Siri speaker too. That's actually, that's a
It's an
speaker,
Apple smart speaker. Yeah.
right? Right. But I think that that's a big deal for understanding, because everybody says you need to be on voice search registration. Yeah, you do, but it's not just that device. So it's a system, not the device, that people need to
Correct.
make sure they're being found on, because the device is just the vehicle, no different than your computer is the device to get out to the internet to make that information come back to you. And
Correct.
that's what the speakers are doing for you as well. And I think people get hung up. I know I get confused on that a little bit
I
because,
mean, you used to get confused about the different, you still do about the
oh,
difference
come
between a
on.
browser and what search engine you're using.
No,
I mean, all that stuff, all anybody really gives cares about whatsoever is I'll not use the S word right now. I'm sure I'll drop it by the end of this. I mean,
Yeah.
there you go. It's one of those things to where you you have it.
You're picking on me, man. I don't like it.
All you care about as a business owner is you care that you're coming up as someone does a search.
Right.
I see so many different agencies and businesses out there. I'm not going to just pick on agencies, but I see businesses focused just on Google. And if you're not focusing on this other piece, you're missing out on about 50% of the market. Now, now here's an interesting thing I heard the other day. I was talking with another expert supposedly inside of the field, and he goes, "Well, Google matters, and everything else doesn't matter because nobody's using it." And I was like, "Well, what do you mean nobody's using it? I mean, I can prove that there's all this percentages." And he goes, "Well, the people that do aren't there." And I'm like, he goes, I'm targeting the older crowd. They're not on those devices. And I'm like, that's not true either. I'm seeing people in their 80s using voice search like they've never used voice search before because they can't see, but they can hear because they have the hearing aid that's Bluetooth enabled, and they can hear that information back to them.
Are you talking about my father, basically?
I'm talking about people like your dad. But he doesn't have Siri. He has Sirius or Cirrus.
No, he talks to Sirius.
Oh, Sirius.
Yeah, he goes, "Hey, Sirius," but it works for him. I mean, because he can't type, he doesn't have the dexterity he used to have. So you're seeing that population starting to use more voice because it's convenient. They can talk to it. They're okay with that. They can hit the button that says turn on, or they have the voice command turned on and say, "Hey, Sirius, find me," and then da da da. And you're right. And don't kid yourself. Those people still have buying power too.
They're influencing everybody else inside their decision market.
Right.
I mean, focusing just on one thing is going to be the death of your business if you do it, in my opinion.
Right, I agree. It's no different than just I'm going to go back to my early days in business. Yellow pages. If you're in an area that had 5 yellow page books and you serviced all those areas and you only did one, you just missed out on the other 4 areas because you're not there. So it's the same thing as the old days with the yellow books, because that's when people are, let's go. That's my comparison. Is because when people used to pull out the yellow pages, they were motivated to find something because they had a need for a specific product or service, and then in the digital world, it's the same thing. And so, but the voice search is just a more convenience process is where we're at now.
And what's absolutely cool about voice search is a lot of people think, well, nobody's going to use it to find my business. I hear that all the time from business owners. Nobody's going to use it to find my business. And I have seen where moms, I watch people constantly to see how they use things, but I've seen moms have that smart speaker sitting inside of their nursery and they're asking questions, or it sits on the kitchen counter, or it sits inside of the office, and they might ask for whatever type of business you are, then they might ask for your reviews, or it might ask what's the best, or how do I do this? And if you could provide that information that says that's provided by you, or it loads up your website as a reference point, it's going to tie in. That's what, in my opinion, that is one spoke of the wheel that comes into the voice search piece.
Right. I agree with you 100%. And, and a lot of people don't really understand how the process works, but it's not a simple formula. It isn't A plus B equals C. It is not that simple. It's more complex. It's the integral of A plus the differential of B or whatever. Yeah, I'm just babbling, but it's not.
That's your engineering degree. You just went.
I know. Sorry.
It's kind of like my technical side. Now, one piece about voice search that I want to make very clear to everybody. Voice search is tied to your local SEO. So the same amount of effort that you're going to take and put out there, you're going to be found on Google. You're going to be found on Google Maps. So Google search, Google Maps. You're going to be found on Google Places or Google Business Profile. You're going to be found on all the Google products. You're going to be found on all the voice search products that are tied to that as well. The other piece is you're going to be found on Bing. You're going to be found on Facebook. So if you follow that, you're going to be found everywhere that your customers could possibly look. So unlike back in the day where someone would come in and go, I'd like to get an ad in my newspaper or my tidbit or whatever it might be. It's one of those things to where you have all those things that used to be where you had to buy one ad to be inside of the spot. For one, you can go to all these directories for free if you have the time to do it, or you come use a piece of software like Simply Be Found, where we put out all of your listings or citations, which, by the way, those are the same thing. Listings and citations are the same.
Right.
But you put all those out to where then you're being found in those, and you're being found on all kinds of different devices. It doesn't rely on somebody picking up that paper and looking at it and seeing your ad and deciding it. It is somebody who is looking for a product. It's no different than the Yellow Pages, but it's spread across to all kinds of different devices, all kinds of networks. They're coming to the Yellow Pages. They're looking at plumbers, and I need a plumber, and they're going to pick one off of there. And if you don't come up on that list, you are missing out on business.
Right. You might be on the list, but if you're not on that front page, you may never get that call. And that's what we're trying to do, is get you pushed up on that list. That's what our software does for you.
And it's going to give you more opportunities to be able to rank, and it's going to be able to do it across so many different networks. I mean, right now for the networks we work with is up to 352 technically. I just did the count earlier today.
Okay.
But we always say you're going to go up to 300 different networks, and you're going to be able to do that from one spot. So you put your information in once. Now, what information matters to that voice search is going to be all the same stuff as local SEO: your name, your phone number, your address, your business description, your business hours. And that is where I talked about for years. You have to be able to take your data and turn it into advertising. That's all that data that's there.
Right. And it goes back to your 3 pillars again, Rob. I mean, we probably mention the 3 pillars every time, the content, the authority, the trust. Did I say it in the right order?
You did. I screw it up all the time, and I'm the one I think came up with that list. We've
modified it over time, but that's really without that, you're never going to get optimized. You're not going to be seen on or heard. I shouldn't just say seen. You're not going to be heard because when you do a voice search on one of those systems we talked about, they may only list 1. They may list 3. And then they ask you, is this what you want? And if you say, no, that's not, because you may know a name of somebody, but they're not coming up. So you got to say, no. But then you're training that system. And that's another thing that people need to be aware of. If you say no to things, it's saying, oh, that is what they're looking for when that query happens. So you got to be careful, that you think that you're not being found on some of the voice systems, if you will, out there as well. Because I don't think you can clear a cache on that kind of stuff like you can if you can. I don't know how, but that's a whole other conversation.
Okay, so that's a broad term right there as well. Depends on which device. If we're talking about a smartwatch, it's completely different. Your phone, you can clear cache on your phone.
Right.
You can also log into the back end of your Alexa, and it's inside of privacy, and you can say forget all conversations. You can have it forget everything. But it takes some knowledge to get there, and none of those systems make it simple for you to go through and clear what we would call a browsing history or cache in our terms as far as a computer go.
Right. So it goes back to the same thing as your search history is worth something to these systems because, let's face it.
It's how it knows you.
Yeah, it wants to know you. It wants to be, and it's actually kind of an artificial intelligence in a way. It's learning you. It's learning you and what your tendencies are and that kind of thing. So, when people say, well, I've been on my speaker and I was coming up and now I'm not. Well, did you say yes? And they said, well, no. I said, no. I said, well, you just told the speaker that that's not what you want to be looking for. Because whatever reason you said no, or you said yes to it, but then when you use your own speaker again and you do the search for yourself, you get a false sense of security because that speaker's learned you. And that's why it's so hard to explain the process to everybody out there because it's learning from your actions, your searches, just like your computer does when you do things. That's why, when you do certain things or search things, ads start coming up, those kinds of things. Is learning what you're doing.
Well, we were one of the pioneers, Dean, inside of this industry for voice search. There's a couple people that were before, but they were really tying everything to being local SEO,
Right.
and really tying everything into, hey, focus on your Google business profile.
Right.
Nobody ever wants to talk about Bing places. So a lot of our competition doesn't like to talk about that. They don't like to talk about Apple Maps, but it's one of those things to where we were the pioneers of it. When I came into your shop, and I was, when you were a client of mine still for my agency that no longer exists, it's because this has been our focus. And I transferred all those members over to all those customers over here for a lot cheaper rates. But it's one of the, I don't know what the hell I was thinking. But anyway, now that I say that out loud, that was really dumb.
I guess you just said that out loud. You just went, "Oh my God, I just left money on the table," because
yeah, I'm too honest at the end of the day, and I wouldn't want to rip somebody off.
Right.
But it's one of those things to where you have that. When I walked in and I started talking about how your business was, you said it was doing good. This really wasn't being talked about. You weren't getting phone calls every day asking you about if your Google Voice listing was there. You were getting calls about your Google business profile, or back then it was Google My Business.
Right.
And then they decided to make it Google Business Profile. But I mean, it's one of those things to where that didn't really exist. We were one of the very first to start really talking voice search. Then people started coming out and saying voice search registration. Now people are saying Google Voice, which Google Voice is really, if you search that, it's a voice system for Google to have a phone line. But I mean, they're trying to be able to manipulate it. I have majorly pissed off the industry for everybody who is trying to sell it and sell it as voice search and saying it's a one-time registration, because it is not a one-time registration. That does not build up your authority, and that does not build up your trust. It might work for some businesses, but it's not going to be a good long-term play in an organic type of search. But I mean, I've had people contact me in multiple different ways saying, you can't talk about this stuff. You shouldn't be talking about it. You're not part of the Good Old Boy Network. This is not stuff you should be doing. And it's because we're not part of any other network. We work with the APIs for Google, which is how we connect to Google. We work with them in that aspect, but we're not doing ad spends. We're not promoting the products that make them money. So we are not sitting what they call the big boy table. What's your opinion on all of that?
Oh, no, I agree with you 100%. I mean, we are all about trying to help small local businesses. I don't want to call everybody small. You may have 50 employees. And you go, I'm not small, but in the world of definition, you're still a small business. But let's just call it local. We're all about trying to help the local business get customers to see them, and it's not just Google products. I mean, and so many I mean, we still use Google as the foundation for our platform because that's how we start. But I agree with you. It takes everything you can't leave money on the table. Yeah, make sure that they're getting a hold of you. And it's more than just the Google products. And a lot of people are not happy with us right now. And it's because our approach is so different, and we're going after a market that most people don't pay attention to because nobody wants, because business owners are squirrely.
Business owners are squirrely, just like I just saw a message come across, and it's not right. And I'm like, I got to respond to that or I'll forget. And I mean, you have a million things going on as a business owner. I get it. Dean and I have been business owners for years. I grew up in it. I mean, I've watched businesses fail. I've watched businesses do really well and do millions of dollars every month. I've seen them absolutely go from being good to broke. I went from doing really well for myself to being broke, sometimes in the same year, and had a lot of fun with it while it was working, and then lost all my ass the following year or later on in the year. But I mean, I've experienced those ups and downs. Being a business owner is one of those hardest things you can do, but we're control freaks. We don't want anybody else to tell us what we're doing,
Right.
need to be doing. And that's what makes us. And the voice search piece is so new to the business concept to where that is probably since it's so new, it almost seems like a voodoo, a magic pill, and it's a solve all, but really it's not, because it ties into that local SEO. Right. I've been practicing local SEO standards before local SEO is even considered a thing. And back in the 90s, when we put it inside of structured data, which is why I always say advertising, in today's world, is all based on your business's data that you're willing to share, like your
Right.
business name, business phone number, business address. All that stuff gets built up. So if you want to be found by more customers, and I think that's probably a huge piece. Now,
Right.
one piece that
Let me just interject real quick, because
Yeah,
you
go
just said
for it.
name, address, and phone number. We have a lot of people that are members that are service areas. So they, even though the address, it's more, you got to define their service area as well on that. Do you agree with that? Well, for service, type businesses, they don't really want their, because you don't have a brick and mortar location, but you have to have a physical location for Google, but you don't want it to be seen. So it changes a little bit on that. I know I just something that just popped in my head, that the service people are being successful with us because they're still following the same rules, but they're not really putting out their address. They're putting out their service area, if you will. Do you agree with that comment as well?
To touch on that from a Google business profile standpoint, there was a lot of service area businesses that work out of their home. So you have construction that works, service area that has an actual brick and mortar office. And then you have some that work out of their home. You have a bunch of them that work out of their home, actually. And what Google's doing is it's trying to clear up as much of the scam out there as they possibly can. And they're trying to be able to get that data to be right. Because what ended up happening, and I'll throw it out there, Home Advisor, companies like that, Angie's List, they would go out and they'd build all these profiles. And they'd put them at locations that didn't exist. There was all these places for leads that were doing the same thing. And they weren't really truly a painter, electrician, a plumber, or a roofer, whatever it might be. And what ended up happening is Google started getting all those bullshit that was inside of their system. They're trying to figure out a way of clearing it out. They're still not done. They're still making a ton of changes on it. So now the service area, if you are working out of your home, needs to hide your address. If you don't have your address hidden, that means that you are going to be not in compliance with Google. They will end up suspending your profile if it's not already been suspended. So how you tell is you have to log into Google Business Profile, look at the top, or log into our system. If it says not verified, that means there's a problem. In some cases, sometimes it throws a false negative, but it never throws a false positive. But it's one of those things to where you have to think about that. So to be able to solve that problem for service area, you hide that address, you build up your service area, and inside of the voice search networks, they will actually pick up that information and know that you work in this county and zip, and it'll actually list all of those towns, and it just knows by that structured data, perfect, this is where they solve, this is where they do it.
And by defining that service area, then when that voice search happens, find near me that service area, because you're within that service location area. It's going to help you. So I know that I went full circle on that conversation.
You did.
It's something that people need to understand, that that voice search is more. Now, in my opinion, I think voice search is more. When they're saying near me, that tone, it's more effective if you have a pin or a physical location, if you will.
Yes, no, kind of, maybe. So there's a whole aspect to that. So let's talk about that real quick. So when that search happens, so if I say, "Hey Siri, find a business near me," it might know my exact location, because I told it I can have that inside of my settings. I said, "Hey, I can have that exact location." If I'm not in that exact location, I haven't done that, it might go off of my IP address, which if I'm on a cell tower, it might put me in somewhere else. There's too many variables that come into that. So the whole find near me is only as accurate as how much data you have been willing to give up and what it can actually figure out about you in about 3 milliseconds. So it's one of those things to where the find near me is never perfect, but you don't want to miss out on that, because there's opportunities, because even when it's not perfect, you still might be a good fit. So when any of those find near me searches happen, it's going to go back to those 3 pillars: the content, the authority, the trust. It's going to look for that structured data. It's going to look for all that information inside of your content, from posts out to Google Business Profile, out to Facebook. It's going to look at your reviews. It's going to look at your name, your address, your phone number, your business description. It's going to look at your service area. It's also going to look at your questions and answers for some of those search devices and be able to compile that up, because what that search engine wants to do is to deliver the best result it possibly can, because the search engine wants you to continue to use their product. So at the end of the day, it's all about them and delivering you the best result, because if they deliver you the best result, you're going to come back and you're going to ask for that information again.
Right. I agree with you. So anyway, I really appreciate you helping me figure this all out a little bit on the voice system.
Well, the voice search, it's all brand new.
Right. I mean, it's you and I like, because we're in Colorado, we like the Wild West, because it is really, the rules aren't all set in stone yet. I mean, and they may never all be perfectly perfect, if you will. And so it's always changing. And so that's why a lot of businesses are really struggling with the whole concept, and they understand they need to be on voice. They're not sure, but they think they have to go out and register with somebody one time. And that doesn't happen, because it may give you a boost like we talked about. But the problem is everybody, your competition, if they're truly doing our 3 pillars, and a lot of them do that, you may make a jump, but you're not going to stay there, because you're not adding to that content, the authority and trust piece of it. So it's one and done.
It's a compound effect.
Right. But you make, so we've seen businesses that they do all the things they're supposed to do. They get ranking number 1, and then they quit doing things, and pretty soon they're not on the front page anymore, because I'm going to use an engineering. It's called entropy. That's one of my engineering terms. That you don't ever stay at the top state. You always drop it down, unless you're adding energy back. And that's what that whole 3 pillars does for you, is adds that energy back into your business. So I don't know. I get it. I'm passionate about it. And the problem is it's really hard. Because it's not here we were drawing that line again. It's just not a linear process. And business owners don't like that necessarily sometimes, because they like to say, if I do this, I get this. And this is kind of one of those things that it might get there. It might come this way. But but that's the thing. So I'll just shut up, because I'm starting to ramble a little bit. So
here's a dirty little secret to end on.
Okay.
About the industry. And we have people that do that with our system now. And they go out and they sell a one-time registration for voice search. And here's how they do it. They come to us. They sign up for an account. They then get access to your Google business profile. They link said account. They put the listings plan for $25 onto your Google business profile. They make sure all of your information is correct. They send it out there. They wait for it to get verified. They might leave it there for 30 days. They might leave it there for 60. They might leave it there for 90. Depends on the business, and they pay for those months that are there. They come to you. They charge you $800, $1,000, whatever it might be. The rest of it's profit. Then they shut it off, so they don't keep it going with us. They don't do all the stuff to follow the 3 pillars of content, authority, and trust. They don't do all of that side. And then what ends up happening from there is you start to fall off, because you're not following the process. Right. But they came to us. They did the one-time registration. They did what they said they were going to do. They registered you, and then it's a hope and prayer that you stay there. Now, if you call and complain, possibly some of them might turn you back on for a month, or say they turned you back on for a month, and hey, we're going to do some stuff in the back end, and make it seem really big and really technical. But that's really a dirty secret that happens all the time.
Right. And I don't really bring that up much, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So on that note, guys, there's a dirty little secret from the industry. I appreciate anybody who is a member of us. And if you are using us for the one-time registration, rock on. I like your money just as good as anybody else's money coming in the door. I don't necessarily agree with that approach, but if it's working for those businesses and it's working for you, then awesome. Just keep in mind, guys, if you are doing that and using our system for that, we do have the affiliate program that is now out. Come see us about the affiliate program. I'd love to talk to you about it. But on that note, I'm gonna say my goodbyes. Make sure you like, subscribe if you like hearing Dean and I rambling. And Dean, go ahead and finish it off.
Oh, hey, everybody have a wonderful day and check us out at simplybefound.com. Simplybefound.com. I can almost say that. So anyway, thanks everybody. Have a great day.
All right. Bye from Rob and Dean the Ramblers.
Yeah.